all for joining today. Today's featured report is the project forecast report. The discussion points today, we're just going to give a brief overview of the purpose and goals of the project forecast report, and then review report settings and the source information that drives some of the settings in the report. Today's session is going to be a shorter session versus some of the ones that we've had in the past. So we'll just get started here. The purpose of the forecast report, the project forecast report, is to forecast estimated and awarded revenue. The CRM module is required to forecast probability estimates, and then the resource planning is required to use for the revenue forecasting part of this report. And this report only includes regular charge type projects. It only reports on regular charge type projects. So now the opportunity portion or stages of in pursuits are part of regular projects now. So this is going to, the in pursuit stage will forecast out the estimated revenue, and then only if it's one or an awarded type of stage will the report will only work for forecasting revenue. So I'm going to dig into that more as we review the settings here today. Okay, so in the report settings, I'm going to review the grid, how the grid type changes the column field selection, and then I'll just take a look at the other options within the start date, duration, fee allocation method, pursuit forecast calculation options, awarded forecast calculation options, and then the calculation period. So at that, I'm just going to come in here and go into the project forecast report. So I'm within the options of the project forecast report, and we have the columns and groups. So in the columns and groups, we have a grid type, and these are pulling from the hubs. So you can see you've got the activities and all these different hubs in here. We have a demo database, so some of the more common ones are going to be your activities, your contacts, employees. And as we change these, then the columns, so when you go into manage your columns, you're going to see that some of these available columns are going to change based on the grid type. There are standard columns in here that are going to exist regardless of the grid type. And some of these grid types may not even make a difference of, for your configuration of this project. So you can see, because we have the client grid type, you're going to see a lot more client type of columns in here. See, and then if I go and I change this grid type, let's say to activities, and then I go into manage my columns, you're going to see more activities. Now, the system only allows us to select one grid type at a time. So there's, as far as I know, there's no way to select multiple grid types at a time. Okay, so this is the grid type option. And then we have our columns. So I'm just going to come in here, I'm going to manage the columns. And for this particular report, so I have the estimated fee, I've got the stage, the probability, the weighted fee. These three fields right here, and I'll show you where the system is pulling these fields from. These have to do with your with the CRM side of of the application. So this has to do with the in pursuit type. And the forecasting, this has to do with your the revenue side, the awarded projects, the revenue forecasting, you have to have the planning module for these fields right here. Okay, so I'm just going to apply these columns. And then we're going to move on to the options. So the time frame options, we're just talking about the time frame options of what's going to appear within this report. So the start date, you have two options. You can start with a specific date or a relative date. And if it's a relative date, then you choose either today, this month, or next month. So I'm just going with this month. And the duration, the scale is monthly. So we're just going to take a look out 6 months from now. In our calculation options, we have fee allocation. So this, and I am going to take you back to the Project Hub and show you where the fee allocation, where this information in this report is pulling within the Project Hub, because whatever your settings are in the Project Hub is going to drive what appears within this report. So here's our, here's some of our options. We can spread evenly across a time scale. So you would have your fee, and when it's referring to a fee, that would be the fee that is within the for the estimated fee for the in pursuit. And then you would allocate all the fee to the estimated start date, or you could allocate all the fee to the estimated completion date. Again, I'm going to show you where all these little pieces are within the project. You could allocate the fee to the close date or use the allocation method of the project. This one right here, this use allocation method of the project, this is going to be very important to remember to use when you're trying to forecast out for revenue forecasting. So that's your awarded projects. All these other, this fee allocation, this is implying forecasting out for the in pursuits. Okay, so calculate pursuit forecasting using, now again, we're just talking about the in pursuit projects, or I should say stage. And so the pursuit forecasting, you have an option to forecast the estimated fee or a weighted fee. So the estimated fee is just going to be the whole fee, and then the weighted fee is the whole fee, estimated fee times a probability. And then calculate awarded forecast using, this has to do with, keyword is awarded. So this has to do with the projects that are won. And now we're switching gears to the revenue planning module. So you have to have the resource planning module for this part right here. So it's asking, how do we want to forecast our awarded revenue? Do we just want to forecast out the labor? Do we want to forecast out labor plus direct expense? Do we want to forecast out total compensation? Remember, total compensation is labor plus direct expense, and then you add in the consultant. And reimbursable consultants, reimbursable expenses, it's everything. That's what total compensation is. And then this last option, it says match the revenue forecast calculation. It has labor plus, it's just taking it's taking the direct expenses plus the consultant's reimbursable expenses and the consultants. It's like combining all of these together and adding it to labor. Really, it's very similar here to the total compensation. Okay, so we're gonna just leave that there. And then if you're multi-currency, then you can select your different currency, how you want to report in the exchange rates. Okay, so we're gonna go on here. I'm just gonna, I'm gonna run this report. And then I'm going to go back and show you the settings in the Project Hub where this information, how it's pulling into this report. I'm pulling this report for ABC Plaza Study, and this is it's an awarded project, and it is set up for revenue forecasting. So it is not going to be looking at anything with forecasting in pursuits because the stage is set to awarded or won. So I'm going to go ahead and run this for you. And then after we look at this report, then we're going to just go back to the Project Hub and take a look at the settings, some of the setting that's driving how it's appearing in this report. So we have our project and the stage, so it's awarded. Now, estimated fee and probability weighted fee, this has to do with in pursuit. But the forecasting, this has to do with the plan, the resource planning. And it's the stage that's going to drive whether we're forecasting on in pursuit or whether we're forecasting on resource planning. So the stage is what's critical, what's key to this report. That's what really drives what happens here in the grid. Now, I told the system to forecast out 6 months. So it looks like it did that for me. That's good. And then it's just pulling from the revenue forecasting grid. So we'll go take a look at that. So I'm just going to kind of move this aside here, minimize this. And then we're going to go into the Project Hub. And we're going to talk about the how to assign a revenue forecast to a project. So number one, the project has to be awarded. So it's awarded stage, and then you go to the contract management section. So if you're in the Project Hub and you go to the contract management section, click on estimated fee, and then the allocation method, take a look at this. This allocation method, if you recall when we were in the report settings for the project forecast report, it had all these different options like spreading evenly and allocate to estimated start date and all these. This is where it's getting that information from. It's getting the information from this allocation method that's on the estimated fee tab within contract management. So we have, and then the very last item is the revenue forecast. So if you want to use revenue forecasting in that project forecast report, then you've got to select revenue forecast. That's what's key. That's what's key here. Okay, so then the next step that I'm going to do is I'm going to take you to the revenue forecast. So the forecast, the revenue forecast is right underneath the contract management. So we're going to go here. And you can see we have this grid. So we have this project, ABC Plaza. It has all the little phases on here. And then you can see these two columns. We have forecast start date and forecast end date. The key with forecast start and end date, these two columns, these only exist here within the revenue forecast. So this is just associated with revenue forecasting. So forecasting start, forecasting end. When I see those two columns, I know we're dealing with the planning module. We're dealing with resource planning. We're not dealing with the CRM part. We're just dealing with the resource planning. And then we'll just scroll through here and we can see if you want to make any edits to your revenue forecast. It works very similar to the planning. You have to check it out. And then again, just like the resource planning module, you have this, the ETC revenue. So that's going to be the estimate to complete. So if you change any of these numbers, then it's just going to change what's here in the grid. Now this grid, you don't have to be concerned about, and I'm sure some questions are coming out right now, like, oh my gosh, if I come in here and change my revenue forecasting, what's going to happen to my plan? It's not integrated in with your plan, so you don't have to have any concerns about that. The only thing that pulls from the plan is like the contract that pulls in from the plan. See, I can't even come in here and edit these. Okay, so the contract, these numbers actually pull in from contract management. So these you can't edit. Okay, so we've got, so here in this grid, we have these numbers, and I just came in here and I put the numbers in. I just put these numbers in here, and then that's how we get the numbers flowing into the forecast report. So it just takes the total for all the different phases and pulls them in here. Okay, so we're just going to switch gears. Does anybody have, should I pause for questions, or should I just should I just keep going, Liz?
Yeah, I think there were two questions that it's worth asking as the group, please. Okay. Can it pull the data? Can the forecast report pull from plan data, or do they have to enter it, the revenue forecasted in another area?
Yeah, the revenue forecast is separate from the plan. So when they go into the plan, they're gonna just go in and enter that data in. So they're gonna be starting from scratch.
Okay, and do I have to use contract management, or can I use compensation?
So the compensation is within the contract management. So when you go to, that's a great question. So the compensation, yeah, it'll pull the compensation in there. I'm just making the assumption that you start in the contract and then it rolls over to the compensation, but it is pulling the compensation.
Okay, great. So that's perfect. So either one will work. Thank you.
Yes, yes. I always forget about that because I always start with the contract. I always start with the contract and set it up so that the contract rolls into the compensation. But if you don't have that feature turned on, you'll fill it out. The key is put the compensation down at the lower levels. Okay, all right, so we've got, then I'm going to just move on to the weighted revenue, or the weighted forecasted revenue, the CRM side. So we're going to switch gears over to the CRM side. And I'm just going to go back to our reporting, and I saved a report for the in pursuit. So I'm just going to take a look at these settings, and I'll show you these settings, how it's just a little different. Guys, I saved, I wouldn't need the forecast on here, so I'm going to take that off because that has to do with the resource planning part. And then on the options, it looks like I kept everything the same. I'm making this spread evenly across the time scale, so it's going to take the fee, which is the weighted fee. So I'm going with the estimated fee times the probability. Okay, and this part isn't even going to matter here because we're just reporting on in pursuits, and this has to do with the awarded projects. So we're just reporting on in pursuits. And I'm going to look at it from a monthly calculation. Okay, so I'm going to run this, and I do have it sorted by stage. So this one I have a little bit more going on with this. So we have our opportunities. So this is in the go stage, and we've got so here's the estimated fee times the probability and the weighted fee. So this is just taking the weighted fee, and then it's going to evenly distribute it through the 6 months here. And some of these are not distributing, so that, I guess I would have to look into that further, why we don't have any anything going on. I might have to look at this stage, the lead stage, and just verify that this is truly an in pursuit. It should be, because I asked for in pursuits only, but some of these aren't reporting. But you can get the idea that you can get a final total at the bottom here. So you can pick and choose what stages you want to report on, and then just forecast out for a certain time frame. But I'm going to take you back to the project hub, and then we'll take a look at some of the sources of the numbers that are pulling into this report. So I'm just going to minimize this, and we're going to go back to the hub, project hub. Okay, and then let's just look at the project. Well, actually, let me just stick here with the contract, because I think I can get all my information here, pretty much, almost all of it. So again, with the estimated fee, I'm going to have to pull one of my projects that I have in this report. Let me pull this one. Rust. residents. That's in here. Okay, so we have this one spreading evenly across the time scale. And then we've got here with the pursuit details. So here in the project summary pane, we've got the pursuit details. Sometimes this is collapsed. So you have to go in there and just kind of expand it to get at this. But the estimated fee, the probability, the weighted fee, this 1.477 number, this is what was, this is the value that was used to spread in the forecast report. So it's pulling from here. And then I want to go look in the project hub. There's a dates and costs tab. And when you look here in the milestones, so in the milestones, you're going to have like these different options here for the milestones. There's estimated completion date, actual start date. I think, as I recall, there were some in the settings for the project forecasting report, there were some different date options for when you want to forecast your in pursuit fee, and those dates are pulling from the milestones. So I just wanted to point that out because sometimes people will be, sometimes firms have user-defined fields that are very similar to these drop-downs here, if not exact, like duplicates. So just to be aware of that, whenever you're trying to forecast and you're finding all these dates and you're not sure where the source of those dates are, just remember to come back to the milestones, because these are the dates that report is pulling from. Okay, all right. So I think I've got everything covered as far as what I wanted to share with you today. If you have any more questions, we can review that.
Yeah, we did have a question come in related to the allocation method there. What if it's grayed out and you can't see an allocation method
Yeah, I
to
saw that come
change?
through. Okay. Okay, so it's grayed out. The allocation method is grayed out.
Yes, please.
Okay, so this is grayed out, like you can't drop that down? Because it is gray here. Is it
That's
a
correct.
regular? Is it a regular project? Let me just try to find like a promotional project or an overhead project and just see if that is the deal. So we have general overhead. Oh, well, that isn't it, because it doesn't even have anything in there. So that's not it. So it is a regular project then. Bring this one back up. So it's grayed out. Actions. Oh, could it be that they just don't have access to, I'm wondering. If it's grayed out, could it be like a permissions thing where where it's read only? I'm just really pulling for straws here.
Yeah, maybe
We'll have to take that one.
maybe, yeah, we'll take it offline if you can send us a screenshot of what you're seeing your project to DIET, and we can address it there.
I don't know that I've run into that.
No, I can't recall. I ran into it once, but I can't recall. I know the estimated fee as a function is a CRM function. So it used to be in opportunities and vision. So if you don't see the estimated fee tab, that is possible. But if you're seeing it and it's grayed out, it's probably a security or permission thing, as Diet's saying. So, but it's a really good question. And then there was also a comment related to that you might have start dates after the 6-month period when you were last looking at your report. I know you were saying some of them didn't spread during the duration, and so there was some commentary being that it might be related to the spread in the time frames. So I think that's
for
another,
sure. Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
just a great point to make
Yeah.
reference to for the group too.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think we got any other questions yet, but I know that Liz and Jared are capturing everything, and we are recording. Someone asked about that. So thank you, Diet.
Well, you're welcome. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you.
Thank you, and awesome. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Diet, Hillary, thank you as always. And like Hillary just said, if you would like a copy of the recording, please feel free to reach out to me, Liz Sidney. My contact information is in the chat feature for reference, and I will send that to you as soon as possible. Diet and Hillary will be in touch and following up on any additional questions you guys have. And at the end of this webinar session, there will be a survey pop-up on your browser window. Please fill that out. Your feedback is very important to us. Again, if you have any immediate questions, please feel free to reach out to me directly. And thank you, everyone, again, for your time and for joining us today.
Okay, thank you.